For my regular YouTube audience, you know what you need to do next to get to the information that you want from this video. But for those who are new to my channel, here are some key points to help you work best with the information in this video. Number 1. Timestamps and other important information can be found in the description to this video. Number 2. The dates of the energies that are unfolding in the week ahead are in the introduction section of this video. Number 3. The degrees of current planet placements and their location in signs are also in the introduction section of this video. Number 4. I'm a personal astrologer giving a general astrology reading in this video. For some people it will resonate. For others, it will not this week due to the influence of planets in your own personal horoscope. It may vary from week to week how much my forecast will resonate with you. If you would like a reading with me to explore your own chart further, the link is also in the description for this video. Number 5. I am using the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis in this video. Number 6. By listening to the introduction, it's going to help you know what's in store for you this week. And then you can go to your sun, moon, and rising signs for more information on what to expect specifically. Number 7. I use both Vedic and Western astrology techniques with what is known as the tropical astrology chart, or, for those who aren't aware, the Western astrology chart. Please explore the placement of your Western or tropical astrology sun, moon, and rising signs using the timestamps for this video. Number 8. Haters and hateful comments will be removed from this video. This is a safe space for everyone who visits here, and like a good bouncer at a nightclub would do, I will eject any haters from this platform. And now here's a final couple of tidbits of information for you about how to use this video. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam, report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello my YouTube family, and welcome to this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to empower you through the tool of astrology this week, and we are looking at the events playing out in the sky between November 9 to November 16. So one of the first things that is occurring is that we are having a square, aspect between Venus at the final latter degrees of Sagittarius and Neptune in the final latter degrees of Pisces. So how is this energy going to affect us, this square aspect? Well, basically our perceptions won't be matching up with what we're experiencing in reality at this time over this couple of days, a little bit before the 9th, a little bit after the 9th, depending on where you are in the world. So you might think that you are Rapunzel about to be rescued, when in reality, your enemy is crouching at your door. It's that kind of deception. So be careful where you place your trust around the 9th of November, especially when it comes to romantic partners. This is an influence that can actually really result in disastrous affairs, getting involved in circumstances that lead to addiction, or simply being ripped off by some shonky shyster. And we don't want that, obviously. Naturally, with this fanciful and yet somewhat deceptive energy, we can wind up feeling disappointed and disillusioned. So that may be the name of the game. But having a healthy form of luxurious escapism is your antidote, is your answer to using this energy to a better advantage. So have a beautiful place to retreat to. Book your pamper session. Book your esteem building beauty treatment. Don't be too concerned about the outcome. Don't have any expectations of what it might do for you, but just enjoy the experience for its own sake. That's what I'd recommend under this influence. Then on the 11th of November Australian time, it may vary depending on where you are in the world. So do find an app where you can double check exactly what day it's happening for you. It could be the 10th, it could be the 12th, depending where you are in the world. But around the 11th of November, Venus will move into Capricorn. Now, Saturn, who rules Capricorn, is a friend of Venus. So while we might ordinarily think Venus in Capricorn is a difficult placement, the results of this transit usually end up being quite pleasing, and they tend to stick with us and last for the long term. I know many people, myself included, who cast their wedding chart with Venus in Capricorn because it's enduring. It's a long-term, sustainable love energy. Quite an interesting concept, isn't it? So when we have Venus in Capricorn, we want loyalty in our relationships. We want beauty, Venus, in our structures, Saturn ruled sign. So think about architecture, landscape design, beautiful furniture. We want classic, stylish pleasures. Some of us might even find a new love of our work. During this roughly 30-day transit, we might love our duties. We might love our responsibilities. Venus is what we love in the sign of Capricorn. So whatever manifests now, whatever arrives in your life with regard to beauty, love, finances, it will tend to stick with you for the long term. So it behoves us to then make our life beautiful in every way that we can, because that's when it happens. When Venus is in Capricorn, that's when it will last. Great energy, a great energy. The day after this, depending where you are in the world, it'll be November 12th where I am, Mercury is going to make a square to Saturn. So Mercury is down here in Sagittarius, squaring Saturn in Pisces, two mutable signs. So it's time to notice that amber traffic light and act accordingly. Slow down. This is going to be a challenging energy. Now we might find ourselves going down the mental rabbit hole of loneliness, depression, sadness, poor me, I'm a victim. This is likely at some point, even if it's just for an hour or so on this day. So put your foot on the brake, slow down and give yourself a mental rest. Don't beat up on yourself if you're negative or depressed or anything. Make sure you have some self-love strategies up your sleeve if you find that you're struggling. Awareness and knowledge of what is going on in the astral skies and how it's affecting us is the power, because we then work to bless ourselves and support ourselves through the energetic waves that we experience. So negative thinking, gloomy attitudes, feeling at odds with your social and familial circles and networks, these are all energies that you need to be aware of when Mercury is squaring Saturn. But you can channel this into better productive outcomes by doing some sort of fine detailed work, doing some goal setting, planning for the future, and even reading heavy materials. You can get into sort of some heavy manual kind of reading, reading an astrology manual, for example. You'll get good results under this energy. And of course, give me more cleaning to do, said nobody ever. But look, actually, on this particular day when Mercury squares Saturn, doing constructive, productive work like cleaning, sorting out the cupboards and getting into those nooks and crannies with the duster, this can actually help us feel a little bit better. Where's your mop? Go grab it and get into it, my friends. Then on the 15th of November, again, give or take a little bit, depending on where you are in the world. It could be a day before, could be a day after, but we're going to be having the full moon in Taurus. Now, this is going to be, I believe, quite a refreshing full moon. And the reason being is that it's trine to Pluto, sextile to Neptune, and yes, it is conjunct with the fixed star Algol. And I talk all about this and how it's going to manifest in your life at the Patreon family. Every month I do a full moon and a new moon report, plus extra videos. You get gifts. Who wouldn't want to be part of the Patreon family for as little as $5 a month? Bargain information. So head on over, the links in the description below or in the link tree icon, and you can get your teeth into all that juicy goodness and find out what the Taurus full moon has in store for you. And the one we're going to be talking about for all signs this week is Saturn Direct. Saturn is moving direct in my part of the world on the 15th of November, same day as the full moon. Very interesting. So they'll play into one another. I'll also talk about that at the Patreon family. But no more Saturn retrograde for another 7 months, my friends. So enjoy this sensation of things starting to change and move forward at last. So what does Saturn rule in your chart? That's where you're going to most feel the difference. I'm going to talk about this for each sign very soon. When Saturn goes retrograde, it tends to confine ourselves too much. We have too many boundaries. We feel too restricted. Life it becomes like a little cage, Or the polarity can happen where when Saturn is retrograde, we have no boundaries at all and we are boundaryless, and that leaves us feeling rootless and, adrift, if you like. All in all, what I'm trying to say is that there is no middle ground. It's either one polarity or the other during Saturn retrograde period. So turning direct means things start to feel a little bit more balanced, It can mean changes, and we're going to notice these changes. The influence of authority figures might shift in our lives. We might have more appropriate boundaries. We might loosen off the boundaries and restrictions that have been present in our life, or we might bring in some boundaries that are necessary. So this is quite an important change, and we're going to be breaking it down, as I said, for all signs shortly. The day after this occurs, in my part of the world, on the 16th of November, check it out for when it's going to be happening in your part of the world. It'll either be on the 15th, 16th, maybe in some places the 17th, but we're going to have a Sun opposition to Uranus. And so here is the Sun down in Scorpio at around sort of 24, 25 degrees, opposing Uranus. And of course, Uranus is involved in that full moon that I spoke of earlier also. That's a rather awkward line, but there you get the idea. This is a once a year transit, and it tends to really stir us up. The Sun rules Leo, and Uranus rules its opposite sign in modern astrology, Aquarius. So these two big boys can behave very much like arch enemies at times, especially when they're in a hard aspect like this. It's an energy of change. It's an energy of being shaken out of a rut. It's an energy of epiphanies, of meeting exciting new people and having exciting events unfold in our lives. In that sense, it can act on us like a tonic if we've been spinning our wheels, waiting for life to move, and finally, things start to happen. But don't get too comfy just yet. That feeling of stuckness can actually lead to bursting out. Like we've been so frustrated, we've been so annoyed, and we haven't been moving forward, and then just like a volcano. Sometimes we burst out inappropriately under this energy. So look, expect that your best laid plans could go a bit awry under this energy on this day, maybe a day before, a day after, maybe for just an hour over this whole period. Chaos could be on the menu at some point. Also, the Sun rules male authority figures, and they could really start behaving quite erratically, and our rebellious attitude could somehow get the better of us if we're not careful. So forewarned, forearmed, my beautiful friends. Note to yourself, act with caution in all circumstances and all situations on the 16th of November. Now, my friends, before we get into the all signs breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to go into the November competition to win a solar return report from Guiding Star Astrology. You know what? I announce the winners at the beginning of my videos in this introductory section. Every month I announce a winner. And so many people have actually won solar return reports, and they never collect their prize because they don't listen to the intro. They sign up, they enter in, but then they don't listen to the intro to see who won. And I have had called out so many people who have not come and collected their prize. So my friends, pay attention, listen to the intro. It is so worth it if you're entering in the prize for a solar return report. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. All signs breakdown for Saturn turning direct. Hurrah! Now, this is telling us where we're having a duty and responsibility to fulfill now, where we need to become masters of compassion. where we need to put in the hard work to achieve our highest ideals, and where we are putting new boundaries in place for our lives. Let's explore that now. So, lucky Pisces, they get to go first this time. I love the way that when we're looking at the different energies, we can start with different signs. So no one sign is given the privilege of always going first or always being last. I know a lot of people complain about that, but I love it. And to all those who love it with me, thumbs up. Pisces, first house is where Saturn is turning direct, and this is actually very interesting because for Pisces people, this is only going to be happening where Saturn turns direct in your sign for the next 30 years. Like there'll be sort of a 29-30 year period before Saturn's here again. So this is an experience that's once in a 30-year experience. Now, I have noticed, because I'm a Pisces rising person, in fact Saturn is practically on my rising degree here at 12 degrees. I have noticed that this influence is affecting me in terms of my appearance. I recently I moved into a new decade this year, and as such I'm debating with Saturn sitting right on my ascendant, turning, burrowing down on that 12th degree, turning direct. I'm starting to think I'm going to start embracing the grey hair that's coming through, and the other sort of signs of aging. Saturn rules aging. I'm starting to feel at peace with that and accepting the aging process. So you may see me in future videos. We'll see how this goes, but you may see me with signs of aging coming through in my hair. Hopefully I can do it in an elegant way. Let's see. But Saturn aging on the ascendant. Now, for those of you who aren't as old as I am, you might start noticing the first wrinkles coming in, or maybe your first grey hair. I think I saw my first grey hair when I was like 29 or something like that. It was sort of the one and only for quite some time, but it gets there eventually. But yes, you might notice those sorts of things happening for you now, Pisces. You might start to feel a little older in your body in some way. Saturn doesn't necessarily rule aches and pains, but he does rule aging. So that the stiffness that comes with aging is a Saturn thing that might be more noticeable now. Also, Pisces rules the feet. It's so interesting. I'm just telling you my stories because this is so Saturn turning direct here on my ascendant. I was dancing this week. I love to dance for exercise, and I was dancing in my living room one day this week, and I really strained my foot, and I'm like, feet, Pisces, Saturn, aging, and they're not as flexible as what they used to be. And I was like, there we go. There's another signature right there of Saturn affecting the body. So be careful of your feet. I expect to see the stiffness coming in a little more, or the grey hairs, or the, brittle nails or whatever like that. That Saturn rules those hard things, bones, nails, teeth, etc. And they might be under impact by Saturn turning direct here. So we also can find, and I've found this myself, Pisces, that it's a really good time to start some sort of exercise program or some diet and focus on working hard, Saturn energy, on taking care of our health, our body, and our image. We start to put more effort in. We start to make more inroads into achieving the kind of look we want or the health that we want, and any changes made when Saturn turns direct will be long lasting. So start that diet, start that exercise program. As I said, I've got back into dancing now that my schedule is sort of freed up, where I can set aside roughly an hour every couple of days to do that, and I love it. So what's your exercise schedule? What's your diet? It's time to really get stuck into it, because it's going to stick with you and be part of your routine now. This is also Saturn turning direct in the house of the body, and the house of who we are and how we present the world is going to influence your maturity. And how it will do that is by potentially giving you not insurmountable responsibilities, not overwhelming responsibilities, but more responsibilities that you can handle that are going to lift your level of maturity, duty, and responsibility. Now, the reason I say you can handle this is that remember what I said in the intro about Saturn being either boundaryless or too many boundaries. So when Saturn is retrograde, that's what we're experiencing, and we get so many responsibilities that we are overwhelmed. Or we don't get enough responsibilities that lift us to a level of maturity. Either way. So I must say it's been more the former for me, many more responsibilities that I've had to juggle during Saturn retrograde, but it's made me now capable. And as Saturn turns direct and pairs back that polarity, I find that I am now able to handle all the responsibilities and duties. They don't feel so heavy. They don't feel so overwhelming anymore. That's an up-leveling and a step into more maturity. So you will experience these kinds of things. That said, it is also a very good idea, Pisces, to avoid overwork and overstress. So any stressful situations, taking on any more duties than you need to. We really should focus when Saturn turns direct here on allowing ourselves time for rest and relaxation. When Saturn turns direct, it's actually a good time to sort of pare back a little and take a break if you've been working really hard. I'm about to go on a trip to the States for what do they call it? Thanksgiving. We don't have that in Australia. So I'm really looking forward to having my first Thanksgiving. This is going to be a time of rest and relaxation for me. Perfect timing as Saturn turns direct here in Pisces. Now, I've talked about the body. I just want to come back to the body 1 second here. Saturn, when he is transiting the first house, is reputed to help you lose weight. I have not found that to be the case. Maybe because Jupiter is also squaring the first house for many of us, making indulgence a bit of a thing, Jupiter's hard aspect can cause problems like weight gain. And so maybe that's been what's influencing we Pisces, because I certainly haven't lost any. I've put some on. But the good news is when Saturn turns direct, we're more willing to work hard to lose weight. And so we might start to see now, if we've put on a few kilos over winter in Australia or summer in the Northern Hemisphere, you might be able to lose weight now. And you can, be more inclined to work hard to avoid these signs of aging, like middle-age spread and so forth. So Saturn does that for us also. We have the endurance and perseverance to give to that. Now, if Saturn's well placed from your natal moon, this transit of Saturn's through the first house won't be so difficult, I've got to say. So that's called Gokara from the moon. It's something I'll be exploring in the advanced level of the Royal Stars Academy for those who are interested. But if you do not have Saturn well placed from the moon, there can be difficulties achieving in the world when Saturn is transiting the first house. It's not a time for high-flying successes. It's more a time, Saturn transiting the first house, about introspection and self-development. And that's going to become a lot easier for you now that Saturn's moved direct. You'll be able to introspect, you'll be able to grow the self, and as I said before, move into maturity. It is a time where you're going to need to be patient, because what you establish under Saturn's direct transit in the first house may not bear fruit until Saturn leaves Pisces. Certainly as Saturn gets to sort of the last 5 degrees of Pisces, we start to see the fruit of all the efforts we've made during this period of Saturn being in Pisces. And that's not coming until the middle of next year. So keep working hard, my friends. Be patient about what you're sowing, what you're planting now in your life, knowing that in time it will bear fruit. So this is a continued time of patience. It is also a time when you will be compelled to honor your calling and your purpose no matter the cost. You realize when Saturn moves through the first house that you are responsible for your destiny, and that if it is to be, it's up to me, that old saying. So you take responsibility, you take on board all the duties and responsibilities to make the life you live your own. And that's one of the good things Saturn brings. But again, it requires patience and hard work to build that in order that it will fruit around the middle of next year when Saturn leaves Pisces. There's a lot to look forward to at that time. So that's what I am seeing for our Pisces people. Now, I want to mention, Pisces, that I am launching this week the my very special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study at the Royal Stars Academy with me. It's up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 off right, my friends. Get stuck into astrology today. Come and join me at the Royal Stars Academy. Thank you, Pisces. Okay, Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon people. Saturn's turning direct in your 12th house, my friends. And the 12th house has a very dissolving influence. It's a house of endings and conclusions. One of the houses of endings, there are two. And this is one of the houses of endings. And it's a moksha house, a liberation house. So because of this dissolving energy, some of you Aries people might find that Saturn is dissolving its influence in your life. Now, this is particularly true if you have your manifestation point for the 12th house at 12 degrees, where this is occurring, or any other planets, your moon or your sun at 12 degrees. Not so much 12 degrees of Aries, I'm talking about 12 degrees of Pisces here. If anything is there, you're going to feel it all the more. So this can dissolve actually psychological boundaries that you've put on yourself. Because remember I said in the introduction that Saturn can be very polaric when he is retrograde. He either has too many boundaries or not enough boundaries. What is happening now, he's direct, is we're coming back into balance around the middle. So if you've put any psychological boundaries on yourself during the retrograde period, they can be released now. If you've been self-sabotaging, if you've been saying, I can't do it, this will never happen to me, and all this negative self-talk, that can wrap up now, and you come back into a more conscious awareness. And so those psychological boundaries that you've set on yourself start to be dissolved, which is good news. We become more aware of any attachments in our life that have blocked the flow of life. Sometimes we're so busy trying to control everything. Saturn has connections to control, also Pluto. But Saturn gives us, going direct, gives us an awareness of where we have tried to control things too much and where we need to let go and let God. When Saturn is retrograde in the 12th house, we are trying too hard to control our lives and make it go the way we want. And we feel like we've been blocked at every turn, like the doors are shutting and we're trying and we're pushing and we're making effort, but nothing's happening. And now we see where we've been sort of trying too hard. And we're like, okay, God, it's up to you. We let go, let God, let the universe step in, and then life starts to flow. So this is actually a good energy when Saturn turns direct here. One of the most rewarding periods of my life was when Saturn transited through my 12th house. A lot of people are afraid of it. I found it fantastic because it dissolved, like I said, my psychological blocks to love, my psychological blocks to success, and I found that I was more able to flow and let in the good things that the universe wanted to bring me. It's also a period of reward, karmic reward, because Saturn rules karma. And here it's in the house of past lives. So very, very often during Saturn's transit of the 12th house, we get our karmic reward for the things we've done, good or bad. So if you're having a shit time, it could be because you really need to clean your karma up, Start serving, start helping, start healing in the world instead of being selfish. Selfishness brings about karmic difficulties. It really does. The way we heal karma is to help others. So if you're having a rough time of it, it's likely to be Saturn giving you your karmic reward in the 12th house. If you are being blessed, if you're finding that, life's tough and hard, but things are going my way, I feel really held. I feel like, if I can just get through until the middle of the year next year when Saturn leaves the 12th house, everything's going to be fantastic. This is actually Saturn's karmic reward. You get gifted the benefits from living an honorable life of helping, healing, serving, and doing good for humanity. So it depends on your karma, of course, but here rewards can come. Saturn moving direct now in the sign of Pisces, your 12th house, for Aries rising, sun or moon people. So I'm excited for you. I know how good this transit can be. If you are helping, healing and serving in the world, this is a time when you start to get the rewards now that Saturn has turned direct and starts to move towards his final, months in this sign. We get inner freedom now. How do we get inner freedom? Spiritual freedom, like lightness of being. We get it through detachment. Now, I went through this transit during the biggest lockdowns probably the world has ever seen, here in my repulsive state of Victoria, where we allowed, I shouldn't include myself in that, where certain people allowed that to happen. We're now suffering the consequences of that economically. But during that time, I felt so free. I like we were locked down. I was living in my house, wasn't able to leave my house except to get groceries once a week. And I still felt so free. This is Saturn in the 12th house. Regardless of the outer circumstances, you can have an inner freedom. And I felt free because I would dance every day. I had my own schedule to live to, not the schedule of some employer or boss or, regulation. I could just do me. And often there is a need to detach when Saturn turns direct in the 12th house. We have to detach from the outer circumstances because they might be difficult and heavy and hard. But the only way to cope is to sort of move beyond that and observe what's going on, do the best we can in the situation we're in. And we find an internal freedom. Some of you Aries people might be facing the truth now about your life and about the world. And hasn't the truth been, revealed? Hasn't the mask been ripped off in so many ways over the last few years, particularly since Saturn moved into Pisces? Some of you are going to be really, coming up to, squaring off with what the truth is about your life, who you are, your place in the world. And this is really a chance to confront inner demons. Where have you let yourself down? Where have you done really well? You start to see the reality. I've talked about the spiritual consequences for your journey so far, so I won't go into that now again, but it is a time of endings and a time of resolutions and conclusions. It is hard to manifest the new, I'll point out, because like I said, this is a conclusion time. It is hard to manifest the new, but things are concluding. Now, David and I met when my husband and I, when I had this transit in 2021, and being together, like being able to start our relationship, was impossible. I was in lockdown. We weren't allowed to fly because of vax passports and all that rubbish. But he was ending certain things in his life, and I was ending this period of singleness in the preparation for moving into, when Saturn moved into the first house and the new beginnings started. I started my relationship with him. We got married. He moved to Australia. We're now, got a family happening right here. And so the excitement of new beginnings is coming, Aries. But with Saturn having just turned direct here, or turning direct this week, I should say, it's really focusing on what you're wrapping up and tying up the loose ends of now. That's where the focus needs to be for a little while longer. Okay? So hang in there. Make sure, you tie up those loose ends nice and tight so they don't come unraveled again in the future. Thank you, my beautiful Aries friends. I want to just mention to you that I am launching a very special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study at the Royal Stars Academy with me. The discount is up to $250 off the usual price, and this is for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 all right. Get set to get stuck into your astrological studies with me. Come and join me at the Royal Stars Academy. Alrighty, Taurus rising, Taurus sun, Taurus moon people. Well, Saturn is at 12 degrees of Pisces, burrowing down on that degree and about to turn direct this week. What's it going to mean for you, Taurus? Well, it's happening in your 11th house. So this is a time when you're really going to be exploring whatever it is in your life that will bring you a sense of fulfillment. You know, you might have, not that Saturn retrograde is a confusing energy, but it might have been harder to grasp or move ahead with whatever it is that is your goal, your dream, your life desire. Now that Saturn turns direct, you start to see clearly, you start to move more succinctly or more definitely towards what it is that's going to bring you a sense of fulfillment. And of course, that's different for everybody, but you know what fulfills you and you know how to chase it down and work hard to get it now that Saturn is turning direct. Saturn turning direct in the 11th house can also cause us to reconsider our goals for our life. You know, what are our life aspirations? What are our desires? And I'm not just talking about career. I mean, where do you hope to be in your life? Not just career-wise, but everything-wise in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. Saturn asks us to look long-term at things and to set in motion long-term actions. You know, things that, you know, if we start them today, we don't expect to see them manifest for us tomorrow, but things that we hope will build and grow and flourish over time. This is an Upachaya house as well. Saturn is also a planet of the long term. So what do you need to do now that Saturn is direct in the 11th house to bring about the fulfillment of your goals over the long term, your dreams over the long term, your desires over the long term? What actions do you need to set in place? It's time to get moving on that now that Saturn has turned direct here. One thing you could ask yourself, my friends, is what do you want to achieve through being alive on the planet? What's the legacy you want to be remembered for? Whatever that is. My hope is that people will learn astrology through what I'm offering. People will know how to do their own charts and how to live more fulfilled lives because they understand how astrology works. That's really the legacy I want to leave. What about you? What's the legacy you want to leave? Do you want to leave a beautiful, loving family? Do you want to leave the world a more attractive place by designing gorgeous buildings? What is it that floats your boat? That's what Saturn is asking you now that he's turning direct. He's asking you to address that question. What is the legacy you want to leave? And so now that Saturn moves direct in this Upachaya house where he does very well, it's about working with opportunities when they arise, seeing them, grabbing them, and putting in the hard work around opportunities rather than working with obligations. You know, when Saturn was retrograde, we might have felt like we had so many duties and responsibilities to fulfill, and the joy of our, for example, our dreams and goals might have been lost in all the obligations for achievement. Now we see things as opportunities rather than burdens, and that's a very different change of perspective that gives us a lot more rocket fuel. Some of you Taurus people might be restructuring your friendships and your group associations now. This means that sometimes you may lose friends. That's what restructuring does. They don't fit into this new structure of the type of friendships that lift me up, that bless me, that fulfill me, that I can bless, that I can fulfill, that I can be a gift to. Now you might lose friends because only those of true quality will remain. Saturn rules quality. You know, Capricorn, the sign he rules, is all about the top of the mountain, the quality. So you may lose friends who you don't consider to have that true quality, but you'll keep the ones that do. Friends and groups tend to leave when Saturn is in the 11th house, when they're no longer of value in our life. And I remember my transit of Saturn through the 11th house. It was a few years ago now, but I lost everybody basically because I really dug in to creating my astrology business, which is the legacy that I want to leave. As I mentioned, it's my dream, my goal. And so I really got stuck into that. And because I didn't have the time for all the superficial friendships that I had formed. And the ones that stuck with me and that I still maintained after this transit were the ones that really had substance, that really had weight, that contributed to my life and that I felt I was a blessing to. So we become a bit more finicky, let's say, about our friendships when Saturn turns direct here in the 11th house. And of course, our visions, which are an 11th house thing, become more idealistic. Not that Saturn is an idealistic planet, but he has a goal and he wants to work hard to achieve it. So you've got to have a vision. This is the house of having the vision, you know. So, you have this idealistic, high mountaintop way of thinking and going about things. So I do hope this is a blessed energy for you, my gorgeous Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign people. I want to let you know also that I am launching this week a very special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study at the Royal Stars Academy with me. You can get up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology at the Royal Stars Academy. So get set to start 2025 off right by getting stuck into your astrological studies today. The link is in the description below. All right, moving to our Gemini rising, sun and moon people. Well, for you guys, good old Saturn is turning, sorry, I'm just going to hold that still. Saturn is turning retrograde, from retrograde to direct, I'll get it right in a minute, in your 10th house, the house of career, of responsibilities, duties, leadership, and so on. So what does this mean for you when this powerful planet goes direct? It's happening at 12 degrees of Pisces too, so if you have your midheaven around 12 degrees, you will feel it all the more strongly. Well, it's an excellent time for rewards and promotions, but there is a but here. Rewards and promotions only come if you've previously worked hard. So if you've farted around, twiddled your thumbs, you go into work and you're standing at the water cooler with a coffee all day long instead of, getting the job done, then the rewards and the promotions are less likely to come. Saturn is the Lord of karma. So good things happen when you've got good karma. And good karma, can I just say, we learn so much by looking at the house where we burn karma, which is the 6th house. And what is the 6th house all about? It's about humility. It's about service, helping, healing, and fixing. That is how we burn our karma, by offering service to other people, being humble, not being selfish, trying to contribute to the world, to society, to life on the planet. That is good karma when we do that. It burns our shitty karma, our selfish karma. So when we're in the 10th house, we're going to get promotions if we actually are working on helping, healing, fixing. Now that can be in many varied ways. Maybe you're a hairdresser and that's your career and you work hard on serving your clients and giving them the best haircut possible. Maybe you're a government official and you're like a town planner and you're dealing with permits for residents of your council every day, and you work hard to get those permits done on time and to help the people who were wanting their house permits get what they want and work around all the obstacles and restrictions of governmental legislation to do so. That's being in a role of service. Public service in that case. You know what, I just have to say, Gemini, I cannot believe the amount of people, not so much at my council, but in my time working for other councils, the amount of people who are in government service roles who are there for themselves, not to help serve the people. Unbelievable the amount of self-interest that there is, but that's their karma. And they'll deal with the results of that as their life or lifetimes go on. But I come back to what I was saying. If you are working, whatever job it is, in an attitude of service and helping and healing, you will get good karma when Saturn turns direct now. The opposite will also be true if you haven't. If you've been selfish, like the people I just mentioned at other councils I've worked at over the years who are all in it for themselves, they are going to get the karma, Saturn, of turning direct in the 10th house. And what does that look like for people with selfish karma? Well, it looks like public disgrace, downfall, reprimands, criticism. That's what can be brought about for people like that. And look, I don't wish anybody ill, Gemini, nobody ill, but I do like justice, you know, and I like to see justice done. So it just behoves us to look for ways to help, heal, fix and serve in our careers, 10th house, as best we can. Now, leadership positions and career opportunities are likely to manifest for you, Gemini. Now, this could be at work, but it could also be, you know, maybe the local scouts group needs a new scout leader and they approach you. Maybe, I don't know, the parents committee at the local high school is wanting a treasurer and you get that leadership opportunity. This is the kind of thing we're looking at. You know, lots of things in out there in the community and in the world might present themselves as opportunities for leadership and including career, obviously, for you. The thing is, when Saturn turns direct, especially in the sign of Pisces, we can be very sensitized to the feedback that we're getting from the world. You know, the rumors, the reputation, we become a bit conscious of that. If somebody leaves a bad comment on our YouTube video, we take it really, really personally, whether it's meant personally or not. We become sensitive to feedback. And our social standing in the world becomes very, very important under this transit direct of Saturn. So we start to care about what others think. Don't get too much down that rabbit hole because really it's just crazy making. So, you know, keep that in mind, but the sensitivity will be there. It is also an opportunity now that Saturn is direct for you to restructure your career, Gemini, and what you're doing in terms of worldly recognition and how you're creating a legacy for how you'll be remembered, how you'll be known. So you're restructuring your career right now, and that's a healthy thing. You're putting new systems in place. You know, while Saturn was retrograde, he tends to be polaric, you know, too many restrictions in career or none at all. And so what we need to do when Saturn turns direct is we come back to center. We actually start to have appropriate boundaries and structures put in place for our career and appropriate opportunities as well. So we start to live more balanced with career, and we change our career and restructure our career to bring more balance into our lives. The one thing I would just suggest to Gemini people now that Saturn is direct is don't forget your loved ones and your family. Saturn direct in the 10th house is a powerful energy for success. He's right at home in the 10th house, and we work hard. We put our all in. We are so dedicated and committed to our career when Saturn is direct in the 10th house. Don't forget that you may be a mum or a dad or a partner or a friend or a sister or a brother, whatever, that there are people that you care about that you don't want to let down as well, you know? So be there for them as much as you are capable of, as well as fulfilling your career dreams and goals. Also, it's a time, just to conclude, Gemini, for being very clear about what you want to achieve. You become organized, you become realistic, you become very grounded about how you need to proceed in order to achieve your career goals and your aspirations for worldly achievement. And so put some ideas in place, structure things, have some dot points. I'm going to achieve this by this date, tick, 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 and really set those mechanisms in place now, because you are feeling so clear and directed in what you want to achieve. So Gemini, I want to let you know that I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study at the Royal Stars Academy with me. This is up to $250 off the usual price for a combined package, get my words out, of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 right with your astrological studies at the Royal Stars Academy. The link's in the description below. All right, thank you, Gemini, Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon people. Cancers, you are having a very blessed transit of Saturn, I must say. He is turning direct in the auspicious 9th house. And this is happening and will be felt very strongly if you have a manifestation point for the 9th house at 12 degrees of Pisces. This is a time when Saturn turns direct of defining the meaning of life. I talked about the date this is happening for those who want to know in the introductory piece to this video. It's a time for defining the meaning of life and the purpose of your existence. You really start to get down to the nuts and bolts of it now that Saturn is direct. When Saturn is retrograde, we're either too much bounded in by duties and responsibilities. So we have no idea what we're even, what's the purpose, what's the point of our lives, because all I feel like I'm doing is serving other people or carrying the burdens for other people and myself, and life is just too heavy with restrictions and responsibilities. Or at the polaric opposite to that, we're just so footloose and fancy free with no boundaries whatsoever that we can't structure our life. That's Saturn when he's in retrograde motion at either end of that polaric extreme. What we're doing now is bringing Saturn back into balance when he turns direct. So we start to define what it is we want for our life, and we know the necessary qualities that are required and the action steps to take to get there. We're not so footloose and fancy free. We're not so overwhelmed. We are much more in alignment to understand where we're heading and how we're going to get there. We become a bit more discriminating during this transit about who we choose to inspire and teach us as well. When Saturn is retrograde, we're kind of just we can be at a polaric extreme of taking everything in from everyone, and we're just drowning in information. Or we can be at the polaric opposite of that and just not care what anyone else says and not have any guidance whatsoever, and we're just rudderless, So now we start to think, we become more discriminating. We're more sort of discerning about, I really liked what they said about XYZ, but I didn't like what they said about that. I think, no, they're not for me. I'm going to go with this person who everything I've heard them say is bang on with what I align with. So we start to, like I said, discern who we want to be our guru, if you like. This is the house of gurus, but it's also a house of inspiration, house of teachers and guides for life. So hopefully if you're here on my astrology channel, it's because I've passed the discrimination test and I'm here to teach you astrology. Sometimes when Saturn turns direct here, we might find that we become very disappointed in our religious or spiritual convictions. Saturn, he's not an irreligious planet, but he is much more grounded and down to earth. And if our religious convictions have been a little bit off center, maybe heading down the road of a cult perhaps, or maybe a bit too pie in the sky, now we become a bit more realistic. That religious belief, that doesn't really work out in reality, does it? And I want to function and flourish here in earthly reality because I believe God wants us to succeed on the planet. Otherwise, why else would he have put us here? He wants us to know happiness on the planet, not necessarily to be a multi-billionaire, but to just be in a state of well-being on the planet. Okay, that's what I want to go for. Any beliefs that align with that, that's where I'm heading. There's look, I could go off on a tangent about religious beliefs all day long, but there's a lot of religious beliefs that are the polaric of this energy. You can get prosperity gospel where, God is only with you if you are rolling buck naked in cash. Well, how does that then work out for all the millions of people in poverty who have great spiritual belief? It doesn't add up, does it? No, that's got nothing to do with it. And at the other extreme, you've got people, and this is prevalent, I think, in certain countries in Asia, where it's a poverty gospel. Unless you're poor, you can't be spiritual. You've got to be absolutely destitute for God to really be powerful in your life. No, bullshit. It's a middle ground. And Saturn, I think, for many of you Cancer people, is teaching you about what the middle ground, the middle way actually looks like with regard to your spiritual convictions. How can you flourish and be happy and full of well-being in the world and have good spiritual morality as well? Now, that said, going hand in hand with that is a lot of disillusionment and disappointment with gurus. Again, this is very tied into the teacher idea, but in this case, we're talking about spiritual gurus. So maybe you followed somebody on YouTube for years who was, your spiritual guide, and then you find out, oh my God, they were a pedophile. This happened to my best friend actually, where she was a devotee. She went to an ashram and went to India to meet this dude, And then it came out that his ashram had been full of pedophilia and abuse. And she was absolutely decimated and horrified. In fact, it really did scar her for life. She's just very anti anything like that now. And which is really sad, because there are nuggets of gold in those things, just exploited and abused by a certain dickhead. So some of you might, as Saturn turns direct here, start to get so grounded and so realistic, you see right through the people that you had put on a pedestal. Now, that said, my friends, hopefully nothing as dramatic as what my poor darling friend went through, but I hope that you can see clearly and groundedly who's been pulling the wool over your eyes and who is real and who you can trust. Sometimes in order to do that, your faith might get tested by something or other, some experience, some circumstance. So that can happen when Saturn turns direct too, but there's purpose in it to help you, sort through. I think about gold panning, when you're sorting all the dross, all the dirt and stones and muck out from the gold that's left. That's what the faith testing is doing at this time. There can be difficulties on a different topic, difficulties or delays with long distance travel. Or if you're in a foreign country, there might be certain obstacles that you might have to work hard to overcome. That doesn't mean you can't travel. You absolutely can. But just be prepared that while Saturn is turning direct here, that you might need to be, just aware of where your luggage is and where your passport is, and just be conscious of those things. Travel can also be a real key thing to change and restructure your beliefs, your ethics, and your morals. Certainly, I found that years ago. I traveled for the first time overseas. I think I was about 21. And I saw that it's a big, wide world with many cultures and many ideas and many beliefs beyond what I'd known in my little backwater in Australia. And my God, it was eye-opening. And for you, travel, Saturn turning direct might give you the opportunity to travel. And as you do, you're going to discover new things and be really blown away by a change of worldview. So that can happen for some people too. You'll also have a bit of an aspiration now that Saturn's turned direct in the 9th house to expand your knowledge and understanding, to really grow your insight. And that said, I hope you might consider joining me at the Royal Stars Academy to expand your understanding of astrology. In ancient times, Saturn was the planet that ruled astrology up until more recently when Uranus took that Guernsey from him. So you might be very excited and very interested now Saturn is direct to really get involved in some form of study, not just astrology, but anything that lifts your awareness, your knowledge, your consciousness to a higher level as well. And that can be anything. It could be something medicinal. It could be something healing. It could be something to do with, man-made laws and, truth and freedom and philosophy. Anything. You might be very compelled to understand and expand your knowledge in any high-level area now. Some of you might also get the pull to be in some sort of spiritual leadership. And this might be in another culture. So, because that's what the 9th house is all about, spirituality and other cultures. So, Saturn turning direct, you might be led to a different culture. It doesn't have to be a different country, but a different culture in order to establish maybe a yoga studio. So, I'm obviously not Vietnamese, but maybe if this was me, I might be drawn to go down to Richmond in Melbourne, which is a Vietnamese-based suburb, and set up a yoga studio to do some sort of spiritual, yoga work in Richmond. So that's the kind of thing that might happen for some people. Some people who have been involved in schooling might return to schooling now that Saturn is direct in the 9th house. And this might be to achieve some sort of high-level mastery. So some of you who've been thinking about it will be going back to do a master's now, or a PhD, or honours or something like that. Some high-level studies that you'll be returning to now that Saturn has moved direct in the 9th house of high-level study. And speaking of study, my friends, I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anybody who's wanted to study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. Up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 off on the right foot by getting stuck into your studies in astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. Links in the description below. Moving on now. Thank you, Cancer. Lovely Leo. Leo rising, Leo sun, or Leo moon people. The energy of Saturn turning from retrograde to direct at 12 degrees of Pisces is happening in your 8th house. Now, this will be felt strongly if you have your manifestation point for the 8th house at 12 degrees. What does this mean for you? What's going to be happening? Well, this might be a period of serious reviewing about goals in life. How do you go about achieving your goals? With what power, 8th house rules power, do you get what you want in life? Do you manipulate people, or do you assert yourself in a healthy way? You know, put appropriate boundaries in place. Ask for what you want. Be honest and upfront and real. Or are you more conniving than that? It's a time for evaluating how you go about doing that, because the Lord of Karma is Saturn. And he is now moving forward in this house. So what is going to happen is he is going to expose any underhanded tactics over the next 6 months or so until he leaves this sign, Pisces. He's going to be working to expose any manipulation that you use, any ill-gained power, any inappropriate use of power, and you could come undone. But if you've been using your power in healthy ways, about how you're achieving what you're achieving and going about it in honest and above board ways, then there can be a karmic reward for such a healthy approach to achieving your desires, using your power. So what do you think, Leo? Where do you stand in that? It is a time of karma when Saturn turns direct. Now, this is also a sensitive house, along with the 12th house and the 4th house. And so you can be extra sensitive to the criticism of others at this time when Saturn turns direct in the 8th house. Be aware, forewarned, forearmed about the fact that even little comments on a YouTube channel can trigger you now, my beautiful Leo friends. Note to self, okay? How willing are you to deal with your trust and control issues? We've talked about power. What about trust? You might be experiencing, now that Saturn is turning direct, a bit of a inner confrontation about your trust issues, and I'm talking trust issues in relationship, or trust issues with the world at large, trust issues with, other people and money. Like, where do you have trouble trusting? I'm a Leo person. I have a sun in Leo. My God, I have trouble with trust issues. I very much, and Leos are susceptible to this, very much. No one else will do it right, so I'll do it all myself. That's a Leo, very Leo thing. We have very high standards, and we have a great capability, Leo. And our willingness to let other people step up sometimes isn't present. So Saturn might be causing us to think about, where am I overwhelmed with responsibilities and duties, Saturn, because I don't trust others, because I feel I need to do everything myself. Saturn's going to be triggering a few things in your life that are going to make you think about that. So get ready for the confrontation internally about that issue. Yikes. So individuality, something that Leos treasure, it can actually feel very pressured and restricted. Okay, so you want to shine, Leo. We all, as Leos, want to shine our individuality, our uniqueness, and how we can do things special and how we can be different to other people. We want to shine that. Well, here, Saturn turning direct might feel a lot of pressure through its individuality, might feel it's, restricted or unable to really shine its individuality. So again, be aware that if you're feeling that, it's coming from this Saturn energy. Don't worry. By the middle of next year, Saturn will be gone out of your 8th house, and you can breathe easy in that regard, my beautiful shining light Leos. So the objective, this is a house of transformation, and the objective of Saturn turning direct here in the house of transformation is all about transforming the personality, purifying your desires, and becoming more psychologically balanced. So it's very healthy to have Saturn now moving direct here. He is going to be restructuring your inner workings, your psyche, your desires, nature as well, and allow you to, this is the house of psychology, to really understand yourself more, to become more grounded with who you are and recognizing your place in the world. So bring that on. I actually really like this energy of Saturn direct in the 8th house. The 8th house is a difficult house for Saturn, generally speaking, but if we're working with understanding ourselves and knowing ourselves, we can really set some new foundations in place, Leo, that allow us to have a strong psychological balance going forward in our lives. So it's very worthwhile, Leo, to really look into the psychology and unravel some psychological knots in yourself. So, it's a great time for releasing outworn motives and behavior patterns through maybe reading some self-help books or getting stuck into maybe an online course in astrology, but also things like psychology and archetypes and things like that. It's going to all help towards that transformation process that the 8th house is renowned for. You can really put some good structures in place to achieve that. It's also the house of sex, and it's very much time to learn some sexual lessons, Leo. And what I mean by that is learning to work with and master our sexual self. I won't go into explicit detail. This is a PG channel after all, but it is time. Saturn is going to help us to really understand our sexuality, be patient with our sexuality and our sexual healing if that's required in our lives as well. And at the end of Saturn's transit, this is something to look forward to. At the end of Saturn's transit, in the middle of next year, sort of May, June, he's going to get to the end of Pisces. That is a time when we are going to develop mastery of our sexual self. Because Saturn is mastery in the 8th house. He can bring a level of self-mastery that enables us to discover deeper intimacy. Whether we have a partner or not is immaterial. I'm not talking about partnered. I'm talking about the mastery of our sexual being. So we can discover deeper realms of our sexual self, and we can really come to an understanding of our sexual passions. There's also sexual karma here. So, if you have used sexuality for good, for things that are healthy and whole and fulfilling, a blessing to yourself, a blessing to others, then you can have really high-level sexual experiences. For some people who have bad sexual karma, and you know what that is, I don't need to go into an explanation of that, I hope. Look out, because Saturn, the Lord of Karma, will bring you undone. So get ready. That said, all of that about our sexual empowerment, Saturn turning direct here may cause some people to want to be celibate now, to choose restraint, to choose to place voluntary restrictions on their sexual life. I'll be honest with you, I've been through times when I did that to myself for various reasons, to focus on spiritual growth, self-mastery, to develop my sense of personal power over my life and my desires and emotions and so forth. It wasn't a permanent thing, thank God, says David. But this is definitely an energy where some people will say, you know what, I just need a time out. Saturn puts that sort of restriction here. But like I said, for many Leo people, it will be more of a voluntary thing than an imposed thing from outside. I want to give a bit of a warning. If you are in a difficult sexual relationship, an abusive sexual relationship, Saturn turning direct, in fact, Saturn being in the 8th house full stop, can really make a difficult sexual relationship worse. Okay, so you might like to decide to put a boundary in place where you say this relationship is not for me and I'm out of here. Hopefully you have the freedom to do that. Okay. We become very conscious of mortality when Saturn is in the 8th house of death. And Saturn has often been associated with the Grim Reaper imagery. any deaths that are experienced in your life. Now, it doesn't mean there's going to be more deaths in your life. No, it means any deaths that occur in your life will be felt very profoundly, very deeply. You're very sensitized to mortality now. So that could be your pet budgie. It could be the death of a friendship. It could be the death of a stage of life you were going through. It's ending, it's finished, it's over. So the death of a relationship. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a physical person death. So please don't be afraid just because I've said that. But you will feel any death, any ending, any conclusion in your life very, very strongly. Some of you might get a very renewed and strong interest in occult sciences, particularly astrology. In ancient times, Saturn ruled astrology, and now that Guernsey has been taken up by Uranus. But this direct motion of Saturn in the 8th house can really fuel your love of and interest in astrology. And I'll talk about that in just a second, what you might like to do towards that end. Sometimes Saturn direct in the 8th house, in fact, Saturn in the 8th house, full stop, retrograde or direct, can sometimes cause blockage of money from partners. Not income for you, but inheritances, wills, windfalls, tax returns, things like that. Saturn in the 8th house, now that he's direct, is all about get your financial affairs in order as soon as possible. Saturn expects you to be honest and above board with these things like tax returns and so on, because he is the Lord of Karma, and you don't do the right thing by the tax office or whatever, it will come back to haunt you. Saturn is just that sort of planet. Being honest and sharing. I'm not saying that if you run your own business that you shouldn't claim everything you possibly can, but I'm saying be honest about what you're claiming. Be real about what you're claiming. It's also not a good time up until sort of the middle of next year while Saturn's direct here to sort of get any loans out. I'm a Leo person. I took a loan out about a month ago that I needed. So I'm not against loans, but when Saturn's direct here, really, we're better off waiting till he gets out of the 8th house if we can. It's also not a good time to update any wills or to take financial risks or to borrow money. Better to wait, if you can, until Saturn moves out of the 8th house, because this is the house of other people's money. And Saturn, remember, always is restriction and blockage. To what extreme is dependent on whether he's direct or retrograde. But it's just not the best time to do those things while Saturn is here. So something to look forward to, Saturn moving out of the house in the chart that has to do with borrowing money, other people's money, inheritances, wills, windfalls. And when he leaves, then you might find that those things start to run smoothly for you and have a better outcome for you. And I want to mention, Leo, that I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anybody who's wanted to study astrology with the Royal Stars Academy. It's up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get stuck in 2025, my friends. Get stuck into your astrological studies with me at the Royal Stars Academy. Links in the description below. Thank you, Leo. Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon people. Well, the energy of Saturn turning direct for Virgos at 12 degrees of Pisces is happening in your 7th house. And if you have your descendant degree and your ascendant by polarity at 12 degrees, you're going to feel this very, very strongly. This is telling us, this energy, that it's time to take responsibility for your love life. When Saturn is moving through the 7th house, our primary focus is our relationships. For better or worse, relationships can feel heavier than usual. Relationships can feel hard. Relationships can feel like they require a lot of work from us, a lot of burdens with relationships. Or we can start to put new structures in place to create better relationships. That's a better way to use this energy. But they are the primary focus of our life during this transit. And Saturn's going to be here until the middle of 2025, so there's still time to work hard on your relationships. Any difficulties in relationships tend to be laid bare, and they come to the surface when Saturn goes direct. Any problems, any hang-ups, they come to the surface through circumstances so that you can address them and restructure them and make a better go of things. So pay attention. Don't sweep things under the rug. That's the worst thing you can do. In fact, I did that years ago when Saturn was in my 7th house. And because of that, I feel that my first marriage ended. I didn't address the problems. I pretended they weren't there. I sucked it up and endured as best I could. Not the best way to use Saturn energy, by enduring a shitty relationship. Okay, so address any problems that come up. You know, other ways this can manifest now that Saturn is direct here is that easygoing type of relationships might actually get more serious and more committed. And for people who are wanting them to put a ring on it, this is your transit, my friends. Now that Saturn's direct, you might, decide on a wedding date, or you might buy a house together, or you might move in together or something. It can get really committed that way. Relationships that are going nowhere will tend to end. So that's the definition here. If the relationship is healthy and good and strong, it's going to get even more solid. If the relationship is rubbish, it's out of there. It's over. It's done. Saturn Direct will really push that forward now. So be aware of this. Saturn has great directional strength, the best directional strength in the 7th house. He's really good for relationships. He really is. What do we need in a true healthy relationship? We need endurance. We need commitment. We need maturity. And Saturn brings those things into our lives in order to have good relationships. But relationships that lack those things, they're gone. They're out of there. Now, I can hear everybody leaving a comment in the comment section. I don't have a relationship. Your reading wasn't relevant to me. Well, let me say that if you are single, you might have some karmic lessons with regard to love now. Saturn is the planet of karma. You might encounter somebody, you might meet somebody who is actually a karmic relationship. Whether a relationship forms or not is immaterial. What might happen is you will encounter somebody who is perhaps from a past life where you need to tie up loose ends with. So maybe they were a relationship that you had a lifetime ago, and you are finishing off that relationship in this lifetime. Maybe they're not a lover in this incarnation, but you are ending something properly that wasn't addressed in a past lifetime with Saturn here. So definitely people can have sort of relationships come into their life that feel predestined, that feel like it was divine and fated under this energy. Some people will even choose self-isolation and loneliness. They'll choose not to have a relationship. They don't want a partner. They'd rather be by themselves. Thank you very much. It may even feel very burdensome for these people to try and meet new people. They don't want to leave home. They don't want to go out partying, and they don't want to go out, on dates. Oh, yawn, or oh my God, that's so tedious, No, they don't want that, because the energy of Saturn moves into the idea of relationships, and it feels heavy and it feels burdensome. Some people might feel, if they don't encounter a karmic relationship, that there are just limited opportunities to experience relationship, so they don't get involved. They're not interested. There's nobody I like out there, so forget it. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do my life instead. So that can happen also. So it doesn't matter what your relational state, this Saturn can be affecting you. Whether you're single and happy single and choosing to be alone and celibate, fine. Or whether you're about to meet somebody and it's going to blow your socks off because it's a karmic relationship, or whether you're in a shitty relationship, whether you're in a good relationship, Saturn has something for everybody here. And remember, he is karma. I really do feel for many of you Virgo people that by the time Saturn gets to the final 5 degrees of Pisces, your karma regarding relationship will be sifted and sorted one way or another. Now, if you are involved in some kind of an affair, Saturn transiting and turning direct in the 7th house may cause you to be found out, may cause your behind the scenes underhanded deeds to be revealed. So just giving you a bit of a heads up on that one. Saturn can act in that way. Some single people who are looking for love, I know there are single people out there who aren't looking for love, but this is the house of relationships, so this is where this influence will be felt. Single people looking for love might encounter somebody very serious, somebody even quite older than themselves, somebody long-term, or somebody very mature. So you might encounter those sorts of people. You might even encounter somebody coming back into your life from the past to reestablish a relationship. You know, having a relationship like Elizabeth Taylor did. You know, she married Richard Burton twice. This is the kind of energy we're talking about that can bring that sort of thing about. Some people are going to get very realistic about relationships, and they might lower any unrealistic standards that they had, you know. That's actually good to see when that happens. You know, we need to be a bit more grounded in the world. I'm not saying don't have any ideals. I know of one person, she's very young, she's very naive and innocent, who thinks life's going to be like a Disney fairy tale princess story. I'm afraid it's not. Okay, so this can cause circumstances in life that bring about sort of waking up with a thud, you know, landing on the ground with a thud. Oh, relationships are actually like this. Okay, so that can happen. Saturn is not the planet of fairy tales, let me say. Even in the sign of Pisces, it can make us very, you know, landing on the ground with a thud, like I said. Now, some love experiences unfold that are here to highlight your unrealistic expectations and your false concepts. So it doesn't mean that you know, if you've got unrealistic expectations that you won't have a relationship at this time. You can, but it won't be fun, because it's going to be highlighting to you the Saturnian side of life in relationships, the grittiness, the reality, the humanness of relationships, okay? So these are all manifestations. As I said, you could encounter an old lover, you could have a relationship with somebody with a big age gap. And as Saturn crosses your descendant, so it's very strong if you have your descendant at 12 degrees, and Saturn moves above the horizon line, you're going to experience a desire now for more recognition and more stepping into public life that's going to last for the next 14 odd years. So this is quite a shift in energy for our Virgo people as Saturn turns direct at 12 degrees. If your descendant and ascendant degree is anywhere above 12 degrees, between 12 and 29 degrees of Pisces, then you are yet to get to that point when Saturn shifts into the upper hemisphere and moves into a more public, recognition-oriented energy. So be aware that's coming for you between now and sort of June next year. But Saturn turning direct is going to start moving you towards that end, towards that new energy. So that's what I'm feeling for Virgo. And I do hope that I've covered everybody here, because inevitably every week somebody says, you didn't talk about me, and I'm having that 7th house transit, and I don't have a relationship, or I don't want a relationship, or my marriage is really good and that didn't apply to me. Please, my friends, please know the 7th house is all about commitments and partnerships. And so if nothing applies to you, it doesn't apply to you this week. It's for people who it does apply to, okay? All right. That said, Virgo friends, I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy, and I'm offering up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start your astrological studies in 2025 with me. Join the Royal Stars Academy. It's such a good deal, such a great bargain. The link's in the description below. Thank you, Virgo. All right, luscious Librans. I won't say lovely this week, I'll say luscious. We are, as Librans, we are seeing Saturn turning direct in our 6th house. Ooh, this is happening at 12 degrees of Pisces. So if you have your manifestation point for the 6th house at 12 degrees of Pisces, you're going to feel this particularly strongly. And there's going to be more of an emphasis now on daily work. So it's not that things are going to get harder. No, far from it. But you are going to be able to knuckle down, get the job done, and move through your daily routines with a lot more ease now, because you're more focused on those things. You know, when Saturn, as I said in the introduction, when Saturn is retrograde, he's polaric. it's like too many burdens in everyday life, too many restrictions, too many health issues. Oh, it's exhausting, overwhelming, and restrictive. Or we have the opposite. Not enough. Things are out of control. No dietary restrictions and your weight balloons. No day-to-day routine. We're all over the place. Things are just wild and crazy and nothing gets done because it's just scattered. So what we need to do is bring in some boundaries from that end and ease up on boundaries from that end, and we get to a place of balance and ease. Saturn turning direct brings that to our 6th house, Libra. So yes, daily work, daily routine is going to be emphasized, but in a more balanced way. You're going to be able to cope better with what's going on. So there is a tendency to work harder, but it comes easier now, Yes, you work harder because you're not so scattered anymore and you can focus more, you can focus better. Yes, you might still have those heavy responsibilities and duties, but you're much more capable of carrying them now because you've had a rise in maturity around those things. I've certainly found this. I've had a lot more responsibilities and duties now that I'm working for a local council and doing my astrology business the same as I always have. My God, I'm juggling so much more. Saturn's in Pisces, my 1st house, that's why. But I am now feeling I'm at a point where I can handle this daily routine, where I can handle this extra load of responsibility and duty to support everybody in my life. So, my everyday work feels less tedious, less unsatisfying. I am feeling more in alignment now, more able to cope. Acceptance of the way things are is often key to this energy. So if you're still feeling heavy after Saturn has turned direct, then you might like to weigh up whether you should quit and look for a better opportunity in your day job. You might like to weigh up whether, you need some help to structure your daily routine and to organize your life, to create a budget, to get on a health schedule, get a personal trainer or whatever. If these things remain, if this feeling of tediousness and lack of satisfaction and overwhelm lasts beyond Saturn turning direct, do reach out for help if you need it. You might like to also analyze if there's anywhere in your life where you're running away from duties. That's more of that polaric extreme of Saturn at this end of the scale. Saturn wants to face our duties, wants to face our responsibilities. And if there's anywhere in your everyday, ordinary life that you're running away from those things, Saturn turning direct is going to help you face that. And so maybe do an evaluation, Libra. Is there anywhere that you're putting your head in the sand about your bills, about your finances, about your health, about your, your work schedule, anywhere that you're doing the ostrich thing, head in the sand? We tend to, now that Saturn turns direct, we start to grow our patience a lot more because we have more maturity to deal with life struggles. We've been through roughly 2 years of Saturn in Pisces, and so we've been growing our maturity with daily life through this transit. And now we are at a higher level. Let's face it, Libra, we've upscaled, we've created new structures that are allowing us to deal with the everyday burdens of life with more patience, more endurance, more stoicism, so we can handle it better. This is good news, and we realize this once Saturn goes direct. Our health and our diet and exercise become very, very important once Saturn turns direct here. We start to take full responsibility for the effect of our habits on our physical well-being. Now, anyone who is dual like I am, Pisces and Libra, you're going to get this in 2 realms. Firstly, Saturn turning direct in the house of the body, 1st house, and Librans in the house of health and well-being. So really, anyone like me, there's a big focus on physical health, care for your body, exercise and diet, and putting some new structures in place to maintain a level of fitness and health, good condition and so forth. And as I mentioned, it's also a good time, Libra, to, when Saturn goes direct, to restructure and reorganize your life. Do a budget. Where is the money going? Be sure you're aware of that. Don't put your head in the sand about that. How are you covering your bills? How are you going with your savings? And how are you going with your daily work routine? Is everything on track? Is everything on schedule? Are you across it all? Let me just say, I know that by the time I'm recording this, obviously before Saturn goes direct, and I know that by the time Saturn does go direct, I will have finished my videos that I need to produce right up until the end of this year. That is giving me a great deal of freedom with my daily routine, because it's going to then give me some space to take a bit of a break when I go on a trip to America for Thanksgiving with David and my family. So there's going to be a bit of a break there, but then also I'm going to be able to knuckle down and focus on the videos that I want to produce for the advanced level of the Royal Stars Academy. So by working hard during Saturn retrograde here, and this is an example of how this works, when Saturn turns direct, I'm managing, I'm coping, my daily routine becomes lighter, easier, much better to bear, because we've put in the efforts and the work during the retrograde process, and then we get the rewards when Saturn goes direct. So I hope that's the case for you too. Now, Libra, I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anybody who wants to study at the Royal Stars Academy with me in 2025, up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 off right, my friends. Come and study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. I can't wait to see you there. The link is in the description below. Okay, Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, and Scorpio moon people. Well, my friends in Scorpio land, the energy of Saturn turning direct is happening in your 5th house. And this is where you're going to notice things, particularly if you have your 5th house manifestation point around 12 degrees, which is the degree that Saturn is sitting at as he turns direct. Well, this is going to be a time between now and the middle of 2025, when Saturn moves direct through the rest of the sign of Pisces, to learn what differentiates you from others. You're going to really start to discover what makes you, what makes you unique, what sets you apart. It's a great time for actually gaining some self-knowledge through introspection, gaining some understanding of the self. Very exciting times. So it's not necessarily that you're going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs and doing some navel gazing, but it's much more about, I realize what makes me happy. I realize what it is that I love. This is the 5th house, the house of what we love. And Saturn direct brings more clarity to those things. So it might be a really good time, my Scorpio friends, to write down 5 things that you love to do and 5 things that you're good at. And I've always encouraged my children to do this. I often encourage people I do readings for to do this, to learn what intersects, between those 5 things you love and 5 things you're good at. What are 2 of the same things? For me, it's astrology. I love to do it. Somehow or other, I happen to be good at it. How did that happen? But they intersect. And so therefore, that is what I pursue, firstly as my hobby, and now it's become so much more than that. It's everything. So this is the house of hobbies and the house of personal knowledge about what brings you joy. So use that energy, that little exercise, to discover what brings you joy, where is your hobbies lie that you could turn into something really precious and valuable in your life. So, great time for gaining personal self-knowledge and understanding. But people in careers that have to do with 5th house things like the arts, performance, creativity, now is the time that you might create some of your best ever work, because Saturn is mastery. He's been in this sign for 2 years, growing your sense of mastery and your sense of knowledge. And now that he is moving direct and moving for the next 6 months through the final stages of the sign of Pisces, you might attain new levels of mastery, or even have a great rise in some sort of public recognition for those fields that you work in now. So it could be quite exciting for you. Some of you might find that Saturn brings a level of seriousness to your creative work. You're going to work hard on your creativity. You're going to work hard to master your craft, and your creative output will reflect that. You will have long-lasting success with what you produce in the next 6 months as Saturn moves direct. Very powerful time for that. You do need to be very conscious of being a workaholic when it comes to creativity. I have got Saturn in the 5th house natally, and I am a workaholic to my detriment. I will be honest and real with you. So knowledge is power. When you know this, you can carve out intentionally time to play, time to spend with those that you love, instead of being the kind of person who gets, shut up in their studio for a week at a time and only emerges, covered in paint and whatever, because they've been, locked down in their creativity. So be conscious of being too much of a workaholic and try to work with that energy. It might be revealed to you through certain circumstances at this time. Now, Saturn is the planet of karma. Good karma and bad karma. He can reflect them both. He gives just desserts. So this is when we get the karmic just desserts of love. And, you will have a strong sense of what you deserve and what you do not deserve. Have you been honorable with the boyfriends and girlfriends that you've dated in the past? Or have you done the dirty on them? Well, karma might catch up with you. Now Saturn is in his once every 30-year transit through the 5th house. It's time that it comes back to roost, as they say. So what do you deserve with love and relationships? Have you got a clean karmic slate? Or do you need to actually reach out and say sorry to some people, or apologize, or make things right in some other kind of way? Karmic deservability regarding love is on the cards. That said, many of you might have some fated experiences with love and dating at this time. You might encounter not necessarily someone you're going to commit to forever, but you might encounter a blind date, and it's like, my God, I feel like I know you. Like, have we met before? Like, it's this fated, perhaps karmic dating experience or fated love experience. In fact, like I said, I've got this in my natal 5th house. All my partners in life, particularly my 2 marriage partners, but all my partners that I've dated have been very much fated experiences. And when I look at the astrology, yes, they're past life connections every time. This is the energy of Saturn in the 5th house. You might feel very vulnerable at this time regarding romance, and because of that, some of you might choose not to participate in romantic opportunities at this time because there's a vulnerability that Saturn brings to this house. Certain lameness. It was years before I ever went on a date. Never happened in high school, that's for sure. There was certainly an energy of it being held back from me, and feeling awkward with love in the early, years of such things. That said, we can feel a bit poor me. Not that this is, the house of being a victim. It's got nothing to do with victimhood here, but Saturn can cause us, this is the house of how we love ourselves. And Saturn here can make us feel unloved and unappreciated. Now, this may or may not be a reality. It might be a perception that we carry, or we could be in circumstances where we're being taken advantage of, where we're not being seen, where we're not being valued. We're kind of, flying under the radar, so to speak. And that's the energy of Saturn here as well. So in that light, my friends, just know that it will come to an end in the middle of next year when Saturn nicks off out of the 5th house for you. There can be some struggles, my dear friends, with energy, with drive, with confidence when Saturn's in the 5th house. You just don't have the enthusiasm anymore. The love that you had for a certain thing feels like it's evaporated, a certain hobby or a certain lifestyle. And, you're feeling like you're really, out there for all the world to see, dries up like a puddle on a summer's day. So no confidence, no energy, no drive for some people, not everyone. It all depends on how strong your natal Saturn is, actually, how Saturn will express in this transit. But I mentioned that just to cover all bases. But it's a chance. These feelings of, unlovableness and no energy and so on, give you a chance to restructure your life, to take back a bit of self-respect, to take back some self-worth, to really start to, do things that give you a sense of pride. So use this energy to make change, to allow you to feel better about who you are and about your life and about what you're doing. Now, this is a house that has to do with luck and risk-taking. Saturn can block luck while he's here. Look, quite frankly, my luck as a person with this in their natal chart, I don't think my luck has been blocked in life. I think I've been incredibly lucky and blessed and fortunate. So that's not how it's expressed in my life. But I do know that there are some people who do experience this when they have Saturn either natally in the 5th house or transiting the 5th house. So don't expect that if you buy a Tats Lotto ticket, it's going to work for you. In fact, probably during this last transit of Saturn through Pisces, avoid any risk-taking ventures, especially gambling. Realize that this is a time when you need to work hard to earn your stripes. And that said, that's very true. Like, I have worked my butt off to get where I am in my life right now. Sometimes I say to the universe, can't I just catch a break where it's just easy? That is true. I feel very lucky, I feel very blessed, but I have worked very hard, and you may need, my beautiful Scorpio friends, to work hard to achieve at this time in life. Check on your children if you've got them, because Saturn turning direct here in the house of children might mean that your children are going through some sort of difficulty at this time. Saturn turning direct in the 5th house can cause some women to have unwanted pregnancies. Not everybody, obviously. But be conscious of that and do what you need to do to avoid such things. Keep your heart healthy. This is the house of the heart. And really, Scorpio, moderate any cardio. Focus on healthy eating. Avoid anything that could adversely affect your heart health at this time. You know what I'm talking about, okay? Wink, wink on that one. Really take care of yourself. And finally, Scorpio, for those of you in positions to pursue such things, you might get an opportunity to have some sort of a love interaction with somebody who is a bit Saturnian, a bit more older, a bit more mature, maybe somebody from sort of high up, like a boss or an authority figure, maybe even somebody who's very stoic and enduring, quiet or reserved even, somebody Saturnian-like. Now, Scorpio, I'm just going to conclude this reading for you by letting you know that I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. Up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to study astrology in 2025 with me. Get stuck into your astrological studies with the Royal Stars Academy through the link in the description below. Thank you, my beautiful Scorpios. Moving along, Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun and moon people. Well, my dear friends, you are having Saturn turn direct in your 4th house, and I, for one, am so glad to see this happen for you, because it's tough to have Saturn transiting the 4th house. It really can be, but the turning direct is a shift of energy, a change of momentum. Finally, you feel less blocked emotionally, less stuck emotionally, less stuck in many areas of life, and you can now start to move forward. What's going on now that Saturn turns direct? And if you have your IC at around 12 degrees of Pisces, you'll feel this in an extra strong way. What's happening now is you will have, through the retrograde period, built a foundation for your future success and achievement. So celebrate that. It's probably been hard work. You've probably been putting new structures and new foundations in place. I'm thinking like David is Sag rising, my husband, and he has been establishing a new business here in Australia, all through Saturn's transit of the 4th house. And my God, it's been some hard work and some effort. But now that Saturn's turning direct, we can take a little bit of a breath and know that he's established the foundation to build future success and achievement. Very exciting, and very glad to see Saturn finally turning direct in this regard. Hopefully, many of you other Sagittarians can relate to this. Something in your life has been restructured so that you can move forward now and start to sort of catch your breath a bit. So Saturn is a slow energy, and it's slow and concentrated efforts now that are going to build your stability in the material world. This is not an energy for, sudden rocket launches to the top of the mountain. Now, Saturn wants to, he's put the foundation in place. Now that he's turning direct, it's going to be like a steady hike up the mountain to the peak. I use the mountain analogy because Saturn rules Capricorn, which rules mountaintop experiences. And so that's where we're heading, to the top of the mountain, but you're starting at the foundation, Sagittarius. Know that what you've established now is going to last the long term and going to build and grow and flourish in time. Now, it hasn't been a helpful transit for gainfulness, promotion, and outer world recognition while Saturn's been in the 4th house. In fact, the opposite a lot of the time. This is because in Vedic astrology, Saturn aspects the 10th house, okay? 10th house of worldly success, etc., doesn't happen. In fact, in some instances, it can be taken from a person. But you are restructuring how you get your worldly achievement, how you get your gainfulness, how you achieve recognition in the world. It's all being rebuilt right now. So don't feel like this has been a pointless and that there's no, you can understand why this has happened. It's happening to get you on that right path that you really want to be on, So this is a good time, Saturn turning direct now, for introspection and really looking at, okay, where have you been? Where have you come from? Where are you now? And where are you going? Inner restructuring and really resetting your emotional foundation. Some of you might be reassessing where you live now. Some people might be actually, now that Saturn's turned direct, might be looking to move and change place of living to a place that suits your needs better. So that can be a blessing to many Sagittarius people as well. Start to do some assessments, some research, some looking into where do you really want to be and where is going to be most fulfilling for you, because that's Saturn energy that's going to give some momentum to that. And if you do move, it's probably going to be more out of a feeling of duty and obligation, or to move to a place of greater safety and security where you can build a solid base for the future. David moved down to Australia to be with me at the time of Saturn's move into this realm of the chart, or Saturn had been here for a little bit. And so he moved not for a holiday or for fun or anything like that. He moved for commitment, which is a beautiful illustration of Saturn in a positive sense. Saturn is maturity, commitment. Saturn is for the long haul. So David moved for commitment to me and for the long haul down here to Australia, which I am eternally appreciative of as my children are still in high school and finishing their high school. Very, very grateful. I feel very, very blessed for that. But this is the kind of reasons that we move when Saturn is turned direct in the 4th house, because we want to create a new future and we want to create a new foundation, because we have a sense of obligation and duty and responsibility and maturity. Lovely, lovely energy in that regard. It's not bad, okay? Some of you Sagittarius people might be working on personal and intimate concerns to safeguard some future peace in your life. So that might mean family dynamics, restructuring family dynamics, exactly what David did when he moved down here to be with me in Australia. So it can be a relationship, it could be family, it could be, if your family, if you consider your family to be your friends more so than your blood relatives, it could be working to safeguard the future peace and tranquility with your friendships that you are focused on now. Whatever you regard as family, whatever you regard as your intimate connections, that's what you'll be working to safeguard and shore up for the future. You might become very sensitive during this transit of Saturn direct to family and domestic issues, in the home. Things might just trigger you more so than usual, any upsets, any sort of problems. You might actually also, because this is the axis of parenting and parents, you might get more responsibility with regard to parents, particularly a mother figure. In fact, do check in on your mother now that Saturn's turning direct here, because this can affect her health. Hopefully her health moves forward and starts to improve and starts to be more stable now that Saturn is direct, if you've had struggles with your mother and her health with Saturn retrograde period. So that can sometimes happen also for Sagittarius people. But look, getting in touch with your early childhood memories can happen. Saturn is things from the past. And now that he's moving direct, you're kind of aware of, why you are who you are because of your upbringing. And now you're more inclined to take responsibility for who you are as a result of your upbringing. You own it. You claim it, good or bad. And you choose to work with it or be grateful for it, whatever is necessary. So that's what I'm seeing for my beautiful Sagittarian friends. Now, my friends, I am launching a very special end of 2024 discount for anyone who's wanted to study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. It's up to $250 off the usual price. What a bargain for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. So get set to start 2025 on the right foot and get stuck into your astrological studies with me at the Royal Stars Academy. I'll see you there. Thank you, Sagittarius. Now, Capricorn rising, Capricorn sun, and Capricorn moon people. Well, the energy of Saturn turning direct is happening in your third house. And if you happen to have your third house manifestation point at 12 degrees of Pisces, you're going to feel this even more prominently. So my dear Capricorn friends, this is an energy where you are going to be inspired to take a deep dive into more knowing, more knowledge that will better your existence. But it's a bit different to ninth house knowledge, which is all about, deep private study. No, this is more about knowledge that you share through maybe doing a workshop, gaining a certificate in something. You're really going to want to go deep, but in a circumstance where you gather your knowledge from the life experiences of others. The third house is very social and very much oriented towards, well, what did you learn from that? Oh, that's interesting. I learned from this. It's a sharing economy, which is the third house energy. So, sharing knowledge with one another and growing and learning from that. So some of you might be inspired to do a short course or to do a certificate or to join a workshop. Particularly workshops are great under this energy. But it's also, Saturn is a serious energy. So you're going to be more serious and deep thinking. It's not a frivolous energy. Yes, it's social, but when Saturn is here and turned direct, it's less frivolity, it's less buoyancy in our social interactions and more seriousness in our thought patterns. That said, you need to watch out for too much Saturn, too much anxiety, too much depression, too much worry. And what is really some good news is that now that Saturn has turned direct, we're less likely to have the anxiety, less likely to have the depression and the worry. Why? Well, as I mentioned in the introduction to this video, when Saturn is retrograde, he's polaric. He becomes extreme. So we have too many boundaries or none at all. And that's affecting, in this case, our mental thought processes. We are full of anxiety and depression and worry. At one extreme or the other extreme is we are just so wild and free and erratic with our thoughts that they're unrestrained and we're all over the shop with our thinking. Either way, it's a retrograde Saturn third house energy. So what is going to happen now is we bring in the restriction to a more balanced center, and we bring in the no boundaries to have a few more boundaries and create some sense of stability. And that can lessen the anxiety, depression, and worry because we're coming back into balance. Now, if you find that you are still experiencing anxiety, depression, and worry after Saturn turns direct on the 15th, then I would suggest it's a good time to go and see a counselor or to see somebody who can help you with some mental health issues, okay? Because Saturn turning direct should start to alleviate those things. a little bit more now that he's no longer retrograde in the third house. Also, make sure, my friends, that you carve out time for fun and enjoyment where you can. This is a heavy, serious energy, and you might be really focused on working or helping or doing stuff, your daily routine, or heavy thoughts and what have you, and you just haven't had time to be social or to have fun or to find the joy in life. So I encourage you to mark it out in your diary to make sure to have time to do that. Some of you may have had a lot of duties and responsibilities with siblings while Saturn was retrograde. Now that might ease off, might come back more into a balance, which is great. You are likely to be busy now that Saturn is moving forward and turning direct, more busy with written materials. So more writing, more articles, more blogs, more social media posts, more letters, more emails, journal articles. You're just busy with written matter. And usually that's going to come from a feeling of the importance of what you're communicating. It's vital that I share my thoughts on this matter. So you write a journal article about it or something. So that's the place that it's often coming from, all this correspondence and written matter. One thing you will do is tend to examine your life in a more objective manner now. It's a detached energy, less invested, more cool now that Saturn is moving direct. So you can look at things through a different lens now that Saturn is moving direct rather than the intensity of retrograde here. Now, if you happen to work in a third house field like education, if you run your own small business, if you're involved in creative advertising or sales, Saturn turning direct can actually relieve a little bit of any burdens or blockages you felt in career. That's a relief. The extremes of the Saturn retrograde start to ease off now in terms of third house based careers. Anything that you do with your hands, like hairdressing or carpentry, any sort of trades and that kind of thing. One thing to be aware of, though, for the whole duration of Saturn's transit through the third house is that your lungs and your nervous system are vulnerable, okay? So take care of your lungs, watch what you breathe, maybe buy an air filter if you need to. And for nervous system, magnesium all the way. Usually I recommend magnesium for Uranus transits, but in this case, because Saturn's in the third house, the nervous system is vulnerable, and so it's worth getting onto the magnesium as well. Start a regime of breath work, exercises, focus on your breathing and focus on meditative relaxation techniques. You can't go wrong. This is a great time while Saturn is direct to instigate such things. And in fact, those sorts of routines that you implement now will last with you for the long term and bring blessing to your life for the long term. So get on it, my friends. I will also just say, if you've been trying, Capricorn, to establish some kind of a small business, it might have felt blocked or burdened or restricted. Keep working hard, maybe planning for the future, creating a foundation for a small business in the future. By all means, keep doing that, knowing that by the time Saturn gets to the end of Pisces in the middle of 2025, things might start to gel and move forward. Yes, it may feel hard establishing a small business right now, but by the time you get to the middle of 2025, things will start to shift and move forward. Saturn is a planet of karma, and blockage and restriction. So there might have been some blockage or restriction, but if you work hard, then by the time he finishes the third house transit, you will get the reward for the hard work you've done in establishing a small business. So don't give up. Stoicism, endurance, perseverance, and determination, these are all Saturnian qualities that need to be applied to third house things like creating small businesses and learning new skills now, I might add as well. If you're learning a musical instrument or learning to paint or whatever it is, be committed, be determined, stick with it. It will pay off in the end, I promise you. So Capricorn, I want you to know that I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anyone who has wanted to study astrology with me at the Royal Stars Academy. And this means up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. What a bargain. So get set to start 2025 right and get stuck into your astrological studies at the Royal Stars Academy with me. The link is in the description below. I will catch you at the Royal Stars Academy. And Aquarius rising, sun or moon people. Well, my dear friends, you are governed, along with Capricorn, by Saturn. So this is your planet in traditional astrology, moving through Pisces, your second house. Now, if you happen to have your second house manifestation point at 12 degrees of Pisces, you're going to feel this very strongly. What are you worth, Aquarius? What do you deserve? Saturn is going to make you question this during the whole of his 2.5-year transit through Pisces. But now that he's turning direct, the clarity around these answers might start to come. You might start to see your deservability. You might actually start to see your worth and demand your worth. You know, maybe you're an aspiring astrologer and you've been doing readings for free for people, left, right, and center, and people just take advantage of your knowledge. Well, along comes this transit of Saturn direct in the second house, and you're like, you know what? I've studied for 10 years astrology. I've got more astrology books than I can count. Why am I doing this for nothing? I know my stuff. I deserve to be honored for my knowledge and my research and my understanding. So that's just an example, my beautiful Aquarius friends. What are you worth? What do you deserve? Saturn is making you own it now. Now, when Saturn moves through the second house, particularly when he turns direct, you can become more directed to the material world, more oriented to the material world. Saturn's a very material, earthbound planet, and the second house is very much that way too. So instead of, yes, we're questioning our worth, questioning our value and so forth in a very real, tangible, material way, but we become less self-analytical during this transit, and we focus our attention to financial matters, material responsibilities, meeting our expenses, making money. That is where we start to direct our attention. For better or worse, I'm not saying money is not a bad thing. We need it to survive and flourish and do good things in the world. We absolutely do. So use this time. Saturn's only here until the middle of 2025, and then he's not going to be back for another 30 years. Use this time to get your financial affairs in order, Aquarius. Focus on your budget. Focus on how you're meeting your expenses, Really, this is a time when you are on a quest for financial security and stability. Don't ignore it. Don't be so, spiritual that you don't recognize the need for money. It's a lie. It's a false doctrine that we've been sold that unless you're poor, you're not spiritual. I mean, that is BS. This is life in the body, incarnate on the human planet, on the human 3D plane. My friends, you got to make it work. So use Saturn energy now to focus on that and get it sorted, get it right while Saturn is here. Very, very important time. And this will set you up for the next 30 years, how you're going to survive and thrive. He's creating a new foundation financially and materially for you now, and creating that sense of solid security and stability that will see you through the next stage of your life. If you ignore his impulses to get your financial affairs in order, do so at your peril. It is time to get things ducks lined up, as they say. So now is a time, with all this in mind, that you're going to realistically see the connection between your self-worth and the wealth that you manifest. If you feel like, I don't know enough astrology to charge people, but you've been studying for 10 years and you've got more books than you can count, then you're not seeing your worthiness and how it correlates to how prosperous you are. We need to be more realistic, and Saturn turning direct now helps you understand that and see that clearly. In some cases, usually if Saturn's in a bad placement from the moon, or if Saturn is severely debilitated in the chart, in some cases people could see or if Saturn has been retrograding, which he has been doing, can see their income restricted or capped, and that makes us question our worth. But the point is, Saturn's trying to wake you up to this, okay, my income is capped. I'm not getting increasing salary bonuses or whatever anymore. Why, and it makes us question, am I honoring myself? Am I demanding what I'm worthy of? Am I in a job that I'm overqualified for? Should I change jobs? It really starts to make us question and take action now that Saturn is direct about our worthiness and what we're getting for all that we are, and getting just remuneration for who we are. Some people, when Saturn is in the second house, and especially once Saturn has ceased to be retrograde and turns direct, some people can make more money than ever. And this is largely associated, as I've just illustrated, with their feelings of worthiness and their confidence and their outright hard work. Saturn is a planet of karma, as I've said through and through this video. And I just want you to know that Saturn can give so much. He is the karmic rewarder for people who have done the right thing. If you have worked hard, if you have worked solidly, determinedly, stoically, then Saturn in the second house can give you your karmic just desserts. And this may happen for some Aquarius people as Saturn gets to the final 5 degrees of Pisces in the middle of 2025. But if you've been a bit lazy, a bit can't be bothered, I'll just expect everyone else around me to take care of me, to pay all my bills, and I'll just mooch off everybody. If that's been the way you've conducted your life, well, I'm sorry, but you may get your karmic reward from Saturn for what it's worth as well. And I know that that's nobody watching this video, but there will be people out there in the world like that who get their karmic financial reward for better or worse. So people who are by nature a bit overindulgent, be careful while Saturn transits the second house, especially now it's turned direct, because you might suffer feelings of lack. And they're feelings of lack. You may still have enough to put food on the table, but you might feel like there's not enough. The rug's going to be pulled out from underneath me. I'm going to suffer financially, and you worry. Saturn is a planet of worry. So, if you've been too, loose with the money and not sticking to a budget, not following the rules of financial growth, Saturn is rules. Saturn is sticking to a budget. Saturn is restriction and maturity and all that sort of stuff. If you haven't been sticking to a budget and tightly adhering to that, then you might be very worried, maybe unnecessarily, but worried nonetheless at this time. Because when Saturn's in the second house, financial responsibility is essential. And it is time now that he's direct, if you haven't done so already, to make a budget and stick to it. Perhaps create your own restrictions. Saturn is restriction, and if you choose what you restrict, then he doesn't have to restrict things for you. If you decide, you know what, I spend too much on buying coffee every day, I'm going to start taking my coffee in a keep cup from home. And, you're restricting where you're spending that $5 or $6 every day on. Saturn will be like, oh, good job doing financial restriction there. I'll just ease off on the other financial restrictions that might have been going to take place. Believe me, with Saturn, it is much better to do restriction by choice than it is by enforcement from Saturn. So I encourage you, make a budget, stick to it for this last sojourn of Saturn through the second house. Also, my friends, say no to gambling, high risk, get rich quick schemes. They won't work. Focus on reward for effort now that Saturn is here. Put in the hard work. It's not too late, and you'll see the rewards in the middle of 2025 when Saturn starts to leave this area. Saturn is, like I said, karmic reward for effort, and he is about giving the results in the long term. So establish a good financial foundation now, and it's going to pay off for you over the next 30 years. Now, my beautiful Aquarian friends, I am launching a special end of 2024 discount for anyone who has wanted to study astrology with the Royal Stars Academy. So get up to $250 off the usual price for a package of introductory astrology and intermediate astrology. Get in get stuck into your astrological studies for 2025, you can't go wrong with this special deal. The link is in the description below, and I'll see you there. Thank you one and all for sticking with me for the Astro Weather Report this week. I'll be back with another exciting edition next week.